Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Refuge from Narcissism, and this refugee video is sponsored by another contribution from Vincent, and here's his story. Hi, Ollie. Before getting started with this story, I should clarify to everyone that you did a video for me 4 years ago when God gives the narcissist what they asked for, not what they wanted. I was anonymous at that time, but the following is a brief recap for your viewers of what I described in that video. I graduated with an MBA from an Ivy League university 4 years ago and was wrapping up my studies at the time of that video. My 61-year-old father is a cuckold and a simp married to my 71-year-old mother. Yes, mom is a borderline baby boomer cougar and dad is a baby boomer son husband, with both of my paternal grandparents likely in their 80s. I was diagnosed on the autism spectrum as a toddler and essentially experienced getting a sensation, much like getting cured in the summer of 2017, when I caught both of them in a bold-faced lie when they tried to sabotage my job hunting out of jealousy. And I will tell you this, Vincent has a very good job, and he's very sought after. So he's not someone who's these are serious jobs he applies for, and he has. So this is the level that the narcissist will go. Okay, they don't care what your job is; they'll try to sabotage it. What I did not mention in that video, and what has since come to mind with the benefit of hindsight and clarity, was the circumstances surrounding the moment when I finally went no contact. I grew up in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, literally blocks away from the apartment where Ollie is recording this video. My parents were ministers at a church youth group nearby, and there was a teenage boy named Elijah who grew up with an abusive father. During a family dinner over winter break, she had mentioned in passing, well, Elijah's the kind of kid who could end up doing a school shooting one day. My parents were married on Valentine's Day 1988, which meant for myself, for Ollie, and for everyone not living under a rock in Broward County, their 30th wedding anniversary was also the day of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting. I remember watching the news on campus thinking to myself, oh God, Elijah actually did it. My mother was trying to son husband me over text messages while I was wrestling with the reality that the latest mass shooting hit dangerously close to home. The fact that I wound up not being him in the end didn't matter. If my memories of growing up with the narcissist were a broken plate, that day and that decision to go no contact was one final fatal shard that left a scar on my memory that I would never get out. I wound up moving to Buffalo for work after school. Hey, at the time, DeSantis wasn't governor yet, and having a distance in a gulag was far more preferable at the time than living under the same roof with the narcs in old school America. I struggled to adapt to a more functioning working environment in corporate America at first with what I thought was the ASD, but now seems more like severe anxiety and CPTSD, but it was a start. Long story short, I wound up on a massive project with the company and had an eventual falling out with my new boss after my former boss and hiring manager, a career banker in his 60s, was unceremoniously terminated from the company over an allegation that amounted to a red herring, even though he was able to get part-time consulting roles sometime later in an industry that does compliance checks. Looking at it now was really to get the new boss in so he could take credit for it, knowing how that company culture operates. Anyway, the stalking from the family started soon after I went gray rock, and I more or less managed to resist the urge to go back over the years. Around pre-COVID or early COVID, not that truly matters in the end, I got notified from a flying monkey family friend that my father had cancer of the esophagus, the tube that carries food from the mouth down to the stomach. I know it well. That's what Virginia, my mother's mother, burned a hole in her esophagus, and deep down, food came out, went into her lungs, rotted in her lungs. She died and basically drowned in her own lungs. It's well worth noting that diet is a risk factor of esophageal cancer, and that my father's side is typical Italian family with decadent cooking, the grandmother complex, and all. In business school, I weighed over 300 pounds when I first started working with Ollie, but I couldn't carry the weight better than most but I could carry the weight better than most since I stand almost 6'8". As I went no contact over the first at first as I went no contact over the first 2 years ago, the weight gradually came down on its own as I Skyped with Ollie, and now I'm about 280, 290. My waist size for pants is usually in the 40 to 42 range, so I consider myself healthy or mildly obese at worst, using the 1-2 waist to height ratio. In any case, my weight problems when I was younger were clearly a symptom of the mental and emotional abuse I experienced at home. And when I started addressing those, the physical improvement was sure to follow. During this time, I had a falling out with my boss in Buffalo and eventually wound up taking a higher paying job in New York City right before he was going to terminate me out of spite. The funny thing about growing up as the black sheep and sticking to no contact, you start to notice that the toxic workplace, and by extension societal narcissism itself, is just another iteration of the narcissistic family dynamic at home. That's why Ollie's political videos are so important, and it's a big reason why I sponsored those whenever I want to do something outside of our Skype calls. And I appreciate it. And again, you're working in an industry of big banking, stab you in the back, cutthroat. It's normal. It's going to be another breeding ground for narcissism, obviously. You're playing with other people's money. You're kind of playing, I'm saying that you're physically playing God, but the industry kind of plays God. So yeah, you're going to be drawn. Narcissists are going to be drawn to that industry. And plus the money you can make is... I struggled at the new role 3 to 6 months in and nearly got fired again due to struggling with anxiety. However, at a very low point in my job, I started drinking a mushroom coffee called Mud/WTR that does ads on YouTube and is made with functional mushrooms like lion's mane, cordyceps, etc., that are different from what are thought of as magic mushrooms, and helped address my anxiety without any hallucinations. Over the past several months, I've also tried taking grass-fed beef organ meat in supplement form, such as liver, bone marrow, etc. Bone marrow is very good for you. Bone marrow, back in the day when people didn't have money, people used to soak bones. And that marrow from the bones is like what really makes you strong. It's very good. I make like bone soup. If you soak bones, you can make bone soup, and that is very, very good for you. Supplements such as liver, bone marrow, etc. to replace multivitamins, and have noticed my health continue to improve as I've taken these. One of the most interesting phenomena that has happened while doing this is I felt my stomach shrink inside my body. I used to eat giant-sized Jersey Mike subs and large chicken and rice entrees with no problem. But there are times now where I can't even eat the whole thing and doggy bag it in the refrigerator for later. Furthermore, while I had been in New York City, I was able to get custom orthotics and a chiropractic care to help address an ingrown toenail, gout, hip, and overall mobility issues, or gait, hip, and overall mobility issues from childhood, which further helped anxiety as well. And I've hung out with Vinny. We've gone out to the bar a couple times. Vinny's a big dude. He is a big guy, not fat. He definitely lost weight too. He lost a considerable amount of weight from the first time I met him. But he is a big guy, and it's not comfortable being that big. It's just not. At a recent dental visit, I noticed my blood pressure was normal, which meant the world to me since I remember my parents taking blood pressure pills when I was younger. As you would expect, the weight loss has continued, and a friend I knew from Buffalo remarked that it looked like I was getting in shape and working out. I feel better about myself and my health. I feel better about myself and my health than I did when I was younger, which makes what happened next with the narcs especially jarring. And I've been talking with Vincent for several years now, and from the first time I Skyped with him till now, they're two completely different people, and it is just one of my proudest things I've done, I think, on this channel, is to watching him from when he first came to me, just beaten, to where he is now, basically about to run the world. So, it's something I take pride in, and Vincent's genuinely a really, really good guy, on top of it. So, now for the jarring part. During my family's latest round of stalking, they revealed that my father is having another bout of cancer and is now on his deathbed. I would not be shocked if they were trying to hoover me back in to have me replace Dad as Mom's caretaker. I think I'll pass on the son husbanding. Exactly. Because it doesn't matter that he's dying. Everybody dies. Death doesn't absolve you of a lifetime of shitty behavior. Because if they had their way, they'd still be hobbling you in your career and your ability to be doing what you're doing. In keeping with the family issues, I noticed that my sister-in-law and mother were doing almost all the stalking. Since Dad is 10 years younger than Mom, the reality of him dying first is jarring. While I am aware that women normally outlive men, my understanding is that it is only supposed to be about 3 to 5 years on average, not 10 plus. What makes it especially eerie is that since they never mentioned anything about my grandparents passing away, this could very well mean that they will likely have to bury their child. As traumatized as I've been, I would not wish that on anyone. While I never recall her being formally diagnosed, I also believe that my borderline mother, is also schizophrenic, especially when she told her church in 2017 that God told her she was addicted to her mental health medication and she needed to go cold turkey. My father also smoked when I was a kid, and I remember him eventually going back to the habit later on in my adulthood. So there is not a doubt in my mind that the combination of food, drugs, and living with an unmedicated borderline cougar got him to the state he's in. He made his bed. He wanted to be son husbanded himself his entire life. That's on him. And it is a little bit jarring. I mean, I remember when I first got the phone call, and I was still living in New Jersey the first time I got a cancer, an actual "your mother has cancer" phone call from Aaron. And this was like before I'd moved down here, before ever the shit really had hit the fan up there. And I had called my therapist, and my therapist said, "Don't buy it. Don't buy what they're selling. Don't do it. They're reeling you in. And she was right. I mean, my mother lived, so that was like 2009, and my mother lived till like 2018, so she lived another 9-10 years. Never did she stop drinking. She'd probably still be alive if she'd stopped drinking. As my apartment lease expires in New York City, I'm seriously considering moving to Tampa or possibly Miami to balkanize. And I'm willing to take my chances calling the cops on my loopy cougar mom if she stalks me. What a way for this chapter of my family to end, with my father dying before my mother, while she is likely preparing to soak up narc supply at the funeral, and my sister-in-law thinking she knows better about how to interact with my biological father than I do, while married to my borderline half-brother who got brainwashed into hating his biological father by my borderline mother, and with me likely getting cucked out of my own father's estate. I'm in the process of getting a book I wrote 10 plus years ago potentially sold to a traditional publisher. So hopefully I can get a big enough advance to replace the will. This would make a damn good novel. Vincent. Probably would, Vincent. It probably would. Don't get hung up on the will. Don't. With what you're doing, I mean, you could outdo that whatever they leave you by 10-fold, 20-fold. Believe me. And from what you told me in the past about how your parents are and how they spend, there's probably not a lot there anyway. Death does not absolve the narcissist. Doesn't absolve the baby boomer. Doesn't absolve the narcissist, because your mother's going to do what she's going to do. She's going to sit there and sap up all her borderline baby boomer supply that she can possibly get out of this. And you're supposed to pity your father. Why? Did they pity you? No, they tried to cripple you and sabotage you. Being 6'8", I imagine you hit that height pretty early on. They should have been having you on orthotics then. But the clarity of no contact has straightened it out. Has given you the ability to do for yourself, to take care of yourself, to do things for yourself, and to realize what your own potential is. And understand something. Vincent was already in an Ivy League school when he first came to me. He was like right at the end. And it was at that crossroads moment where he's in the home stretch of graduating, and here's his mother and father trying to prevent, right there, trying to fuck up his world. And when he first came to me, he was nearly defeated. He was beaten, he was depressed, he had no confidence. And to see him stick to no contact as well as he had, and stick to his plan, and stick to himself, to watch this blossom and grow, has been fantastic for me and for him. But don't get caught up on this. Death still doesn't absolve the narcissist, and it never will. So I hope that helps. Thank you so much, Vincent, for all you do for the channel and another story. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like me to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal, or Zelle, and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Refuge from Narcissism. Take care.